The sun had barely risen over the city when Marcus Johnson started his route. For most people, it was an ordinary Wednesday. For Marcus, it was another chance to work toward a better future. At 34 years old, Marcus had spent nearly a decade delivering packages across the city. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he was reliable. Every customer knew the same thing. If Marcus said a package would arrive, it would arrive. Rain, snow, traffic, it didn't matter. He always got the job done. That reputation meant everything to him. Because Marcus wasn't just working for a paycheck, he was saving every dollar he could. One day, he wanted to start his own logistics company, a company with his name on the side of every truck, a company his children could be proud of. Every delivery brought him one step closer. That morning started normally, package after package. Apartment buildings, office complexes, local businesses, everything went smoothly, until just after noon. Marcus returned to the distribution center. His manager waved him over. "Marcus, what's up?" The manager held a small, sealed package. Unlike the others, this one looked different. It was secured with special tape. Several signatures covered the label. Most importantly, there was one line printed in bold letters. "Urgent. Hand-delivered to Mayor David Wilson." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The mayor?" The manager nodded. "Personal delivery." "What's inside?" "No idea." The manager smiled. "And I don't want to know." Marcus laughed. "Fair enough." The manager suddenly became serious. "Listen carefully." Marcus nodded. "This package has to reach City Hall before 3 o'clock. That's easy. No delays." "I understand." The manager handed him the package. "You're the only driver I trust with it." Marcus smiled. "Then I'll make sure it gets there." Neither man realized that those words would soon become impossible to keep. Across town, Officer Ryan Walker sat inside his patrol car. His day wasn't going well. He had argued with his supervisor earlier, paperwork was piling up, and his promotion application had been rejected for the second year in a row. Ryan blamed everyone except himself. The department, his supervisors, the city, the public, anyone but the person in the mirror. As he drove through downtown, his frustration grew. He wanted something, anything, a reason to feel in control again. Then he noticed a white delivery van. The van briefly slowed near a loading zone, nothing unusual, but Ryan kept watching. The driver looked down at a GPS device, then pulled away. For most officers, it wouldn't have mattered. For Ryan, it became an excuse. He switched on his lights. Marcus sighed when he saw the flashing lights. "Seriously?" He carefully pulled over. The clock on the dashboard showed 2:14 p.m. Plenty of time. Or so he thought. Officer Walker approached the vehicle. "License and registration." Marcus handed them over immediately. "Good afternoon, officer." Walker ignored the greeting. "You know why I stopped you?" "No, sir." "You were parked illegally." Marcus frowned. "I was checking my route." "That's not what I asked." Marcus immediately recognized the tone. The officer wasn't interested in conversation. He wanted obedience. Marcus remained polite. "I understand." Walker looked at the delivery van, then at Marcus, then at the package on the passenger seat. "What are you delivering?" "Packages." The officer stared at him. Marcus pointed toward the company logo. "I'm a delivery driver." Walker wasn't amused. "What package is that?" Marcus glanced toward the sealed envelope. "Confidential delivery." The officer narrowed his eyes. "Confidential?" "Company policy." Something about that answer bothered Walker. Minutes passed. The officer kept asking questions. The questions became stranger, more aggressive. "Where are you going? Who sent the package? What's inside? Who are you meeting?" Marcus answered what he could. But eventually he said, "Officer, I really need to complete this delivery." Walker's face hardened. "Are you telling me how to do my job?" "No." "Sounds like it." Marcus realized the situation was getting worse, not better. The officer pointed toward the package. "Hand it over." Marcus blinked. "What?" "The package." "I'm not authorized to do that." Walker stepped closer. "What did you say?" Marcus remained calm. "The recipient has to sign for it personally." That answer changed everything. Walker's patience disappeared. "Step out of the vehicle." Marcus slowly complied. People nearby began watching. A businessman stopped walking. A woman waiting at a bus stop pulled out her phone. Everyone sensed tension. Nobody understood why. Officer Walker searched the van. He found nothing illegal, nothing suspicious, nothing unusual. Everything was exactly what Marcus claimed. A delivery vehicle, a delivery driver, a delivery route. But by now, Walker had committed too much to back down. He needed to justify the stop, any way possible. Then he saw the package label again. To Mayor David Wilson. His expression changed. The package suddenly seemed important, very important. Too important for a delivery driver, in his opinion. Walker looked at Marcus. "You're being detained." Marcus stared at him. "For what?" "Investigation." "Investigation of what?" Walker didn't answer. Instead, he reached for his handcuffs. The crowd gasped. Phones immediately rose into the air, recording, streaming, broadcasting. Marcus couldn't believe it. "I've done nothing wrong." Walker ignored him. The handcuffs clicked shut. At that exact moment, 3 miles away, inside City Hall, the mayor's chief assistant looked at the clock. 2:30 p.m. The package should have arrived. Investors were already entering the conference room. Lawyers were preparing documents. Reporters were setting up cameras. Everything depended on one final signature package. Without it, a billion-dollar development project couldn't move forward. Thousands of future jobs depended on those papers. And nobody knew where they were. Back on the roadside, Officer Walker placed the package inside his patrol car. Marcus watched helplessly. The clock continued ticking. 2:37 p.m. 2:38 p.m. 2:39 p.m. The deadline was getting closer, and the delivery wasn't moving. Then Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID displayed City Hall. Marcus answered immediately. "Hello?" A worried voice spoke. "Mr. Johnson, where's the package?" Marcus looked at the police cruiser, then at the handcuffs, and quietly answered, "I think we have a problem." The voice on the phone grew silent. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then the woman from City Hall asked, "Mr. Johnson, what kind of problem?" Marcus looked at the handcuffs around his wrists. He glanced toward Officer Ryan Walker, who was standing near the patrol car speaking to another officer. Then he answered carefully, "I am currently being detained." The woman froze. "What?" "I am with a police officer." The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, she said, "The package?" Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. "The package is in the officer's vehicle." The woman immediately stood up from her desk. People nearby turned toward her. "Don't hang up." She rushed through the hallway. The package wasn't just important, it was critical. Without it, the mayor's office couldn't complete the agreement scheduled for that afternoon, and the clock was running out. Inside the main conference room of City Hall, Mayor David Wilson was reviewing notes for a major announcement. For over a year, the city had been negotiating a massive development project. The agreement would bring new businesses, housing, and thousands of jobs. Everything had finally come together. All that remained was one final set of signed documents. The documents currently sitting inside a police car. The mayor's chief assistant burst into the room. "Mr. Mayor," Wilson looked up. "What is it?" "We have a problem." The room immediately grew quiet. "What kind of problem?" "The courier." "What about him?" "He's been detained by police." The mayor stared at her. "I'm sorry, what?" "The delivery driver was stopped." Wilson blinked. "Stopped for what?" "We don't know." The mayor slowly stood. The room was silent. Nobody knew how to react. The situation sounded ridiculous. How could a routine delivery suddenly become a police matter? Meanwhile, on the roadside, Officer Walker felt satisfied. He believed he was doing good police work. The package remained locked inside his cruiser. Marcus remained detained, and the crowd continued filming. Several videos had already been uploaded online. Comments were pouring in. Many viewers were asking the same question. Why is the delivery driver in handcuffs? Nobody had an answer. A second patrol vehicle arrived. Officer Sarah Bennett stepped out. She approached Walker. "What's going on?" Walker pointed toward Marcus. "Suspicious situation." Sarah looked confused. "A delivery driver?" Walker nodded. "Something doesn't feel right." Sarah glanced around. The delivery van displayed company logos, official paperwork, tracking information. Everything looked normal. Very normal. "Did he break any laws?" Walker hesitated. "Still investigating." Sarah frowned. Something about the situation bothered her. Back at City Hall, panic was spreading. Lawyers checked their watches. Investors whispered among themselves. The media was asking questions. Everyone expected the announcement to begin at 3 p.m. But without the documents, The entire event could collapse. Mayor Wilson turned toward his assistant. Track the package. We already did. And? The assistant swallowed. The GPS hasn't moved in 23 minutes. The mayor's face darkened. Where is it? She showed him a map. The location was flashing red. On the side of a downtown street, not moving. The mayor picked up his phone. Get me the chief of police. 15 minutes later, Police Chief Rebecca Morgan received the call. As she listened, her expression changed. The package for City Hall? A pause. The driver is still detained? Another pause. Then she stood up. I'm on my way. Back on the roadside, Marcus remained calm. Years of dealing with difficult situations had taught him patience, but inside he was frustrated. Not because of the handcuffs, not because of the embarrassment, because he knew people were waiting, people who depended on that delivery, and every minute made things worse. Then several black SUVs appeared in the distance. The crowd immediately noticed. Phones turned toward the arriving vehicles. The atmosphere changed. The first SUV stopped. Chief Rebecca Morgan stepped out. The second SUV stopped, then another, and another. City officials emerged. Reporters followed. Walker suddenly realized this wasn't a normal traffic stop anymore. Chief Morgan walked directly toward him. Officer Walker. Chief, what exactly happened here? Walker immediately launched into an explanation. Suspicious behavior. What behavior? Walker hesitated. He refused to cooperate. Marcus spoke calmly. No, I didn't. The chief turned toward him. What happened? Marcus explained everything. The stop, the questions, the package, the detention. The chief listened carefully, then looked at Walker. Did he provide identification? Yes. Registration? Yes. Company credentials? Yes. The chief's expression hardened. So, what crime did he commit? Walker opened his mouth, then closed it. Because he didn't have an answer. The crowd watched silently. Reporters scribbled notes. Camera crews zoomed in. And for the first time, Walker looked nervous. Then another vehicle arrived, a black sedan. The crowd immediately recognized it. Mayor David Wilson had arrived. A wave of whispers moved through the crowd. The mayor stepped out, his attention immediately focused on Marcus. Then the package. Then the handcuffs. The mayor couldn't believe what he was seeing. He walked directly toward Chief Morgan. Is that my courier? The chief nodded. Yes. The mayor looked at Walker. Why is he in handcuffs? Walker tried to explain, but every sentence sounded weaker than the last. The mayor interrupted. Do you have any idea what's inside that package? Walker shook his head. No. The mayor looked at him. Those documents are the final approval for a billion-dollar city project. The officer froze. The crowd gasped. Reporters immediately started speaking into cameras. The story had just become much bigger. Then Chief Morgan ordered something simple. Bring me the body camera footage. Walker felt his stomach drop, because he knew exactly what that footage contained. Every question, every decision, every mistake. Minutes later, the video began playing. Everyone watched. The crowd, the mayor, the reporters, the chief. The footage showed Marcus being respectful, polite, cooperative, exactly as he claimed. Then it showed Walker escalating the situation, again and again and again. The evidence wasn't looking good, but the biggest shock came near the end, just before detaining Marcus. The camera recorded Walker muttering something under his breath. At first, it was difficult to hear. The audio technician increased the volume. Everyone leaned closer. Then the words became clear. Let's see how important you think you are now. The crowd fell silent. The mayor stared at the screen. Chief Morgan slowly looked at Walker. The officer's face turned white. Because those words destroyed his entire defense. This wasn't about public safety. This wasn't about investigation. This wasn't about the law. It was personal. Chief Morgan closed the laptop. Nobody spoke. Then she turned toward Walker. Officer, her voice was cold, you're in serious trouble. Walker looked around, the crowd, the cameras, the mayor, the reporters. For the first time that day, he realized his career might be over. And things were about to get much worse. Because investigators had just discovered something unexpected in the officer's phone records. Something that connected him to a powerful businessman involved in the city project. And if the evidence was correct, this traffic stop may not have been an accident at all. Part 3. The truth comes out. The crowd remained silent. Everyone was staring at Officer Ryan Walker. The body camera footage had already damaged his credibility. But now investigators were looking into something even more serious, his phone records. And what they found was alarming. Chief Rebecca Morgan stood beside her vehicle reviewing the report. A detective approached. "Chief, what did you find?" The detective handed her a folder. Morgan opened it. As she flipped through the pages, her expression darkened. More calls, more messages, more connections. And all of them pointed toward one person, a businessman named Richard Kane. One of the investors connected to the billion-dollar development project. The chief slowly looked up. "You're sure about this?" The detective nodded. "Yes, Chief." "How many contacts?" 37 phone calls in the last month." The crowd gasped. Reporters immediately began typing notes. Officer Walker felt his stomach sink because he knew exactly what they were talking about, and he knew there was no good explanation. Mayor David Wilson crossed his arms. What kind of relationship does a patrol officer have with Richard Kane? Nobody answered. The silence spoke for itself. Back at City Hall, news crews were already broadcasting live. The story had exploded. What started as a routine traffic stop had become the biggest news event in the city. Millions of people were watching, and every minute revealed something worse. Chief Morgan turned toward Walker. "Officer, I'm giving you one opportunity." Walker stared at the ground. "One opportunity to tell the truth." The officer remained silent. Morgan's voice hardened. "Did someone ask you to stop this delivery?" No answer. The crowd waited. The cameras rolled. Finally, Walker spoke. Quietly, barely above a whisper. "Yes." The crowd erupted. Reporters immediately rushed forward. Questions came from every direction. The mayor's eyes narrowed. Chief Morgan raised her hand. "Quiet!" The crowd settled. Then she looked at Walker. "Who?" Walker closed his eyes. "Richard Kane." The truth finally came out. Several weeks earlier, Kane learned that the city project would move forward only if certain legal documents were delivered and signed before a strict deadline. The problem? The project included investigations into several business contracts connected to Kane himself. If the project moved forward, his financial records would receive additional scrutiny. And he didn't want that. So he came up with a plan. Delay the documents, delay the meeting, delay the project, just long enough to create confusion. Walker was supposed to help. What should have been a simple delivery became a deliberate obstruction. The mayor couldn't believe it, all of this, because one man wanted to protect his own interests, and one officer was willing to abuse his authority. Chief Morgan immediately made her decision. "Officer Walker," the officer looked up, "you are suspended effective immediately." Walker lowered his head, but Morgan wasn't finished. A second officer stepped forward holding handcuffs. The crowd gasped. Walker's eyes widened. The reality finally hit him. The situation had gone far beyond department discipline. This was now a criminal investigation. The handcuffs clicked shut, and for a moment, nobody moved. Only an hour earlier, Marcus Johnson had been standing in handcuffs. Now the officer responsible was standing in the same position. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Meanwhile, detectives moved quickly. Search warrants were issued, financial records were reviewed, phone records were seized, emails were analyzed. The evidence piled up faster than anyone expected. By sunset, investigators had enough to arrest Richard Kane. The businessman was sitting in his office when detectives arrived. He looked up from his desk, then saw the warrant. His confidence disappeared immediately. "What is this?" The lead detective answered, "Richard Kane, you're under arrest." The businessman stood frozen. For years, he had used money and influence to avoid consequences. Not this time. Outside, reporters captured every second. The footage spread across television and social media. The powerful businessman who tried to manipulate the system was now being escorted into a police vehicle, in handcuffs. Back downtown, Marcus Johnson was finally released. Chief Morgan personally removed the cuffs. "I'm sorry," Marcus nodded politely. The chief continued, "You should never have been treated this way." The mayor stepped forward. "I agree." Marcus remained respectful. "I just wanted to deliver the package." The mayor smiled slightly. "Then let's finish the job." For the first time all afternoon, Marcus laughed. The tension finally eased. A police escort accompanied the delivery van to City Hall. As they arrived, employees gathered outside. Many had watched the entire situation unfold online. When Marcus stepped out carrying the package, people began applauding. He looked surprised. He wasn't used to attention. He was just doing his job. Inside City Hall, the package was finally opened. The documents were reviewed. The signatures were completed. And despite the delays, the project moved forward. The city had been saved from a major setback. Thousands of future jobs remained secure. Millions of dollars in investments stayed in place. And all because one delivery driver refused to lose his professionalism. Several weeks later, the city held a public ceremony. Mayor Wilson stood behind a podium. Television cameras filled the room. Citizens packed the audience. Marcus sat quietly in the front row, still uncomfortable with all the attention. The mayor began speaking. Today, we're recognizing someone who showed integrity under extraordinary circumstances. The crowd applauded. Mayor Wilson continued. When things went wrong, he remained calm. Another round of applause. When he was treated unfairly, he remained professional. The audience nodded. And when the city needed him most, the mayor smiled, he delivered. The room erupted with laughter and applause. The mayor then presented Marcus Johnson with a special civic award. The crowd stood. Some people even cheered. Marcus walked to the stage. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Then a reporter asked, Mr. Johnson, after everything that happened, how did you stay calm? Marcus thought for a moment, then answered, because my job wasn't to win an argument. The room became quiet. My job was to deliver the package. Several people smiled. Marcus continued, and no matter what happens, you can't let someone else's bad decision change who you are. The audience erupted into applause. Months later, Officer Walker and Richard Kane were both convicted for their roles in the scheme. The case became a national example of corruption and abuse of authority. Police departments across the state used the incident in training programs. Law schools discussed it. Journalists wrote about it. And people remembered one important lesson. Never judge a person by their job title. Never underestimate someone because they seem ordinary. Because sometimes, the quiet delivery driver standing beside a van may be carrying something important enough to change an entire city. And the way you treat people today may determine your future tomorrow. #TheEnd.